Hello and welcome to the Cubs on Deck podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Greg Huss, and today I am joined with two co-hosts. I'm joined with my co-hosts Greg Zumach and Bryan Smith. Boys, how's it going?
I'm doing good.
Fantastic.
How was your birthday, Greg Z?
Oh, it was great. I mean, just always good celebrating with the family. And February is always the kickoff of the college baseball season. So for me, I'm in draft mode now for baseball side, and yeah, just good to spend time.
We got a spoiler alert, but you got a mock draft coming fairly soon, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually just had some functionality with the website we needed to fix around. We actually made some headway today. That was the messages on the Northside Bound Slack. So now I'm just kind of importing the rest of our mock. But yep, there's a spoiler out on Twitter and a player I'm just really excited about. So catch that and look forward to mock draft 1.0. I've been pulling scouts, pulling some people around the game just to see, if something feels right, something feels off. But it should be a good read.
Did you have to figure out who your 50th ranked prospect was to figure out who you were going to mock to the Cubs?
That's actually really funny because, and I won't go too far into this because we've got a fun episode tonight, but I'm not too far off from my top 100 release. So yeah, and I will say that the pick to the Cubs is going to be a player that we've talked about on this podcast, but also somebody where you're like, yeah, I'm not seeing that person ranked there at all. And
Nice.
So feel free to send funny, angry, don't get angry, messages to me. But the people that I've asked around the game and around the player where this player plays are just incredibly impressed with the person and the player. So I think he rises this spring, and I think he's in that range.
I love that we led this off talking about draft talk, because the reason why all three of us are here today for episode number 8, I believe. Number 8? Yeah,
Yep.
Episode number 8. We're only at several episodes in. I'm already forgetting what episode number it is, but that's okay. But I'm glad we led off with that talk, because the reason why we're all three here today is we're going to do a Cubs prospect draft. So the idea from this actually came from Bryan. You came on the show with me and Jimmy a couple of years back, and we did the nerdiest thing of all time. We did a prospect reliever draft. And I think you ultimately ended up winning that fantasy draft with that. I didn't do the math. I didn't add it up. I think you did though, right?
No, I think Jimmy scooped me.
Oh, okay. All right. Jimmy got it. So got to give Jimmy Nelligan credit. But today we're doing a little bit different. This is going to be very similar to like a fantasy style draft. And we're all three going to draft teams. We're going to have 20 guys on each of our teams. It's going to be set up with 5 starting pitchers, 3 relievers, a full batting lineup with catcher, first base, all the way down to DH. And then we're also going to include an infielder, an outfielder, and an extra hitter of our choosing. It can be whoever we want it to be, all that good stuff. So we got a full episode going. We're going to do our very best not to talk too much about each of these guys as we draft them. I'm sure we'll break those rules a little bit, but we got 60 guys to draft, so we got to roll through here pretty fast. We set it up beforehand where if you're watching on YouTube, this is probably the episode. If you're going to watch an episode on YouTube, this is the episode to watch, because we got on the YouTube set up with a screen share of our call here, so you can see the picks coming in as we're making them. So you can see all 3 of our teams, all the rankings of all the players in the order, all that good stuff. Before we started, I set up a randomizer, and Greg Zumach was got the first overall pick in this draft. So it's going to be Zumach, then me, and then Bryan is going to be the 3rd pick, and then we're going to snake draft from there on out. So Bryan will have 4th pick, me 5th, and Zumach 6th, all the way through until we fill out our rosters. So honestly, this is going to look a whole lot like us running down our own prospect rankings for the most part. But I think that the fun part about this is you're going to see where some of the strengths lie in the farm system, right? Because if the catcher position is not very deep, it doesn't go three men really, really strong, then we might reach on one of the top catching prospects. That might be something that happens. I don't know. Any position that could happen on. So this is going to be fun where you kind of see where the system lies. And in the end, you can all make fun of the loser, whoever has the worst team of the bunch. Probably don't do that, but you can honor the person who drafts the best team. So You guys have anything else to add before we get right into the first overall pick?
No, man, let's do it.
All right, Zumach, what you got?
All right, you have never heard of him, but let's not overthink this. PCA, number 1. I just get a lockdown center fielder. Happy to take it. Call it a day. That's my
I think
pick.
that's fair. I think it's fair. I mean, I think if you can't think too much, like you said, you can't think too much on this one. I'm going at number 2 overall. It's funny because I have number 1, still number 1. I'm the only person I think in the world who still has Brennan Davis ranked number 1 in the Cubs farm system right now. But I'm not gonna snag Brennan Davis at the number 2 overall selection. This is a fantasy style draft, right? So I got to be a little bit fun with it, and it doesn't get much more fun than Kevin Alcantara. So I'm going Kevin Alcantara, 2nd overall draft pick here.
All right. Well, I'm happy because number 1 on my draft board has fallen to the number 3 pick. And I'll tell you guys why, because Greg mentioned a little bit. We got to go a little game theory here. And there is no player in the system that has a bigger drop off between what he is at his position and the next guy than Matt Mash Mervis himself. I'm going to take in the number 3 pick.
Yeah, I was wondering if he was going to do that. That
was a good call. That's a good call.
That is a good call. Yeah.
You're thinking right with that. So I guess really that leaves me at number 4. Oh no, you have number 4.
No, excuse me. Yeah,
no.
You were so ready to draft your number 1 overall prospect, but no. Brennan Davis, the man who was my number 1 for more than 3 years, who absolutely is in the mix, I think, for that argument as the number 1 guy, a guy who's going to have quite the comeback season in 2023, is going to be my 2nd pick in the 4th spot.
All right. Well, I just ruined my day. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. I was like, oh, geez, I think Brennan might follow me, and then this happened. So, all right. If I'm going down my prospect list, I think I might go starting pitcher here. But we do have to fulfill 5 starting pitcher spots. I went pretty deep on this. Instead of going just 4 starters, I went 5 starters. So I'm thinking about there's a lot of depth in the starting pitcher department. I can maybe fulfill some outfield slots here. You know what? I think that number 5 overall, I am gonna just get my guy. I think I think it might be a fan favorite going with this pick too. I'm gonna go with Jordan Wicks at number 5. He's my top ranked starting pitcher in the system. I haven't ranked 4th overall, and I think that going Jordan Wicks here is gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I'm after watching Bryan go back to back, I'm really excited for this. Honestly, I'm really shocked that this guy fell here, but I just can't turn down the upside. Oh God, sorry.
Oh, we're getting a dramatic reveal.
Christian Hernandez.
I like it.
Honestly, that's just great value at 6. He has the highest upside in the system. Maybe Kevin Alcantara, and I think either way got sky high potential there. I'm going Christian Hernandez 6. And I'm really thrilled, and I got to admit, I've debated on this back and forth because I figured Jordan Wicks was going to be the first pitcher off, and there's a few different ways I could go, but I did want to lock down in the first 3 picks at least a pitcher, and he's got a lot of hype right now, but I am just going to go Cade Horton. I think that there's enough value there, just getting the K's, getting the fastball slider, and yeah, you know what? I think he has a Jordan Wicks like 2022 season next year. So I'll go with Cade Horton.
Would you say he's a bad man?
I like it.
Well, yeah, all upside, baby.
That's pretty. Yeah, your team's looking pretty decent right now. So who I was debating going with actually at pick number 5, I am back to at number 8. I'm going with Owen Casey at number 8. I think that he could definitely explode in 2023. We forget how young Owen Casey is. He was so young at South Bend last year. He's going to get a decent amount of run at Tennessee this year. Some added, but I like my outfield with Kevin Alcantara and Owen Casey in the outfield. I'll take that every day of the week.
So, man, we're at the 9th pick, and I've spent all offseason arguing that the Cubs should have 4 guys as top 100 prospects. And with the 9th pick, I'm going to get the number 4 of those guys. You guys each already have a pitcher. I'm going to join you. I'm going to get the slider of Hayden Wesneski. I got upper level guys so far, but I mean, what can you say? What can you say about Hayden?
Okay, so I've got a question now because I think it's a phenomenal pick. But how are we ranking these guys? Because I got to admit, part of what I've been factoring into is if they play in the majors, are we still counting that?
Yeah, I think if they still have prospect status, I think that they're free. We did not discuss that before, so
we did not.
If it ruined some of your picks, I'm sorry, Zumach.
But who cares?
We're going if they still have I mean, for future reference down the board here, like Jeremiah Estrada he is game to be selected in this draft. So if you want to go ahead and select him next pick, you can have at that if you want, Zumach.
All right. So for the 10th pick, I'm thinking about how later on in the draft it would be so predictable for Greg Huss and I to be fighting for Chase Strumpf, one of our beloved prospects. But I think instead of getting in that fight with Greg Huss, I think I'll get in a fight
no.
with the other Greg, with his all-time favorite prospect.
Just take him.
James Triantos is coming to play third base for Team Smith.
I love it. That he was actually going to be my next pick. So
he was going to be my pick at 12. So
I'm glad that you can be Zumach. You can be mad at Bryan, not at me. So that's way more fun.
I'll hope he just kills it for your team.
So all right. Honestly, you're doing the right thing, Bryan, in kind of drafting off of positions a little bit here. Yeah, you're being real smart about it. I'm not. I'm just drafting fun guys. So that's all I'm having at it. All right, I'm drafting another pitcher here at number 11. I'm down between two starters, and I think I'm gonna go with Daniel Palencia here at number 3. He is not my next ranked pitching prospect, but again, like with Kevin Alcantara, he is just a fun pick, and I think that a guy that throws 103 with a 94-mile-an-hour slider always plays well in a fantasy draft. So I'm going Daniel Palencia.
Feels like he's had like some helium within, at least like the Cubs Twitter sphere right now of just like people being like, why is this guy not higher? And you know what? Like, I never have an argument for it.
I'm playing to the people here.
Yep.
So I'll also play to the people here. Lock down another starter, and somebody that has gotten some buzz now with even in the recent Baseball America podcast, they were talking about how Porter Hodge is really he's gotten some buzz across the national sphere, and teams are asking about him a lot. I buy the fastball. I love cut ride and gyro spin fastballs, and so I buy that. I buy the slider, and yeah, I think he has a really, really solid year in 2023. All right, so now I'm going to start getting into the gamesmanship a little bit here, because we talked about how catcher is one of the most difficult positions to find, and there's really limited, or first base earlier, and so I'll take a catching option here, and I'm going to go Moises Ballesteros. Right. And I think that's going to be a big bat. We could argue whether he's going to be a catcher or first baseman, but you know what? I'm saying he's got catcher eligibility here. And I'm taking that bat, and I'm just going to see how it can ride in the thick skies of Myrtle Beach.
I like that one. That's a fun pick. That's a fun pick at what you get. You got him at 13 here. All right. So I'm picking at 14. There's a lot of options here. I don't think I want to go back to the well here in starting pitcher land, although I could solidify that pretty decent. All right. I think you're on the right track going the catcher route, Zumach, and I think this might be a little bit of a reach, but I'm worried about what lies behind. So I'm going to go ahead and follow up your Moises Ballesteros catcher. I'm going to go ahead and draft Miguel Amaya. Sure. I don't have guys that are higher up the ladder on my team yet, and I think that positional value is important in this draft. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Miguel Amaya at 14 overall in this draft.
Nice. I'm also going to draft with positional value in mind, but it's not going to be quite what you think, because it's going to be a spot where we're going to actually draft 3 players per team. I'm going to go to the relief pitcher market, because I like the value that Jeremiah Estrada brings as the top reliever in the system. I don't even think there's necessarily like a great argument for number 2. Jeremiah's fastball last year just, burst onto the scene as one of honestly the better fastballs in pro baseball. And he's got a really good slider to go with it. I think he's going to have a really good year and, probably pitching 8th innings for the Cubs by the end of the year. So I'm going to go with him as my first relief option.
For what it's worth, I've been shouting end of the year Jeremiah Estrada closing for the Cubs.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I'd love to see it.
All right. Now the question, I guess, is where to go next. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the pitching well, do 2 pitchers here. I'm going to go with Ben Brown. I think, Ben, I was watching video of Ben Brown actually today, and just, I think you could make a pretty good argument that Ben Brown's curveball is one of the top 3 pitches of any Cubs pitching prospect, maybe even higher than that. Just a really like unicorn pitch, almost like a Shane Bieber type pitch that I think is going to have a ton of success at the major league level. I think there's a chance that he becomes a closer down the line just because his 2 pitches are so special, but he's also an absolute workhorse that can handle 150 plus innings. So I like everything that Ben brings as a pitching prospect.
So I got my like big board here on the notes app on my phone. I don't know if you can see that. Ben Brown was sitting number 1, just ready for me to take. So screw you. All right. Next up, I've got pick number 17. Again, I feel like every time it comes to me, I'm going one of 2 ways. I'm going to go with at pick number 17. I don't have any infielders yet. And another guy, I had Owen Casey really young for his level, Kevin Alcantara really young for his level. For his level. I'm going to go with another guy that's been very young, and that's Kevin Madej. Shortstop is not the most fun position for the Cubs system right now, and Kevin Madej is a guy that has been we've seen various different forms of him, and I still believe in him for sure defensively at shortstop, and I think his bat-to-ball skills are still very, very strong, and I think that he is in store for a pretty good year in 2023. So Kevin Madej, shortstop for Team Huss.
I like it. I like it a lot. I really had Ben Brown circled at 18. I was really hoping he was going to make it, but that was this phenomenal pick. I'm going to take a guy that we talked about upside, and I don't think anybody really knows what this year is going to bring, but I'm going to go with our man, Alexander Canario. I think if he comes back healthy and by all accounts, he can. We're talking about huge upside. And to get him at 18, when prior to the injury, I was thinking he's probably a top like 6 or 7 prospect in the system. So I'll go upside again on here a little bit. And you know what? I'm going to double down on upside. I'm just going to double down on upside. And I'm going to go with my man who's bringing a slider to 2023.
Nice.
Give me that horizontal movement. Give me DJ Hers. I think that is a steal at 19.
Yep.
I think it is. I think you're right. I had 2 options and you took both of them. Way to go.
And you said top 6 or 7 prospect for Canario. I'll point out that if he didn't get injured like he did, I would have been banging the absolute drum that he was the no doubt number 4 prospect in the system. And honestly, I would have heard arguments for higher than that. I think the changes he made from July on were totally real and really exciting.
How far did you drop him? I mean, how far generally did you drop him because of the injury on your list?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to figure, right? But I mean, right around that 10 range, I think is probably where he goes.
Yeah, that's rough. All right. Now, I think at this point, we've kind of reached we kind of knocked out the first couple tiers of the Cubs farm system, right? I mean, we're looking at the next wave, which is filled with either guys that maybe profile as more like a 4th outfielder or a guy that has some upside, but we just haven't really quite seen yet. Guys like that. And so I think I'm going to add to my rotation here. And I'm going to go with a guy that the Cubs, and I'm going to put him in the rotation. This is a guy that the Cubs believed enough to add to the 40-man roster this offseason. I'm going Ryan Jensen. I've been a Ryan Jensen believer for a while now, and why should today be any different?
We found out today that we're going to get StatCast data in AAA parks this year. And I was trying to think about, who's the guy that like his first outing, I'm going to just instantly pull up, try to get the metrics and really understand sort of the underlying stuff. And for me, like Ryan Jensen is that guy. I cannot wait to see all 6 pitches and see the characteristics on those. All right. So against my better judgment here, I think I'm going to go 2 pitchers here, but I'm doing it for value because they are 2 guys that I still have in the top 16 in the system. So to get these guys at 21 and 22, I think I have to stick with that value, even if I'm, leaving the hitter side a little less filled than the Gregs here. So I am going to go with Caleb Killian at number 21. If Caleb makes the mechanical changes that the Cubs are working with him on, mostly they talk about the lower half a ton, and everything clicks like it was early in the season, and much more so in 2021. Then I'm getting top 5 value here at 21. So I got to go with Caleb. And then for the next one, Caleb, guy who's already pitched in the major leagues, we're going to go the opposite side of the ledger. We're going to go with somebody that has not yet thrown a professional pitch, but a guy who, was pretty much a first rounder in last year's draft. The way that, if the teams at the end of the first round weren't thinking about their draft pool or anything, I think he would have gone in the end of the first round, and that's Jackson Ferris, the left-handed pitcher from IMG.
23 on my board overall, and no doubt first round pick. Phenomenal value here. Did you get him at 23?
22.
Oh, there we go. All right, perfect.
All right, up to me here at 23. All right. I do have 3 starting pitchers. Brian, you're up to 4 starting pitchers.
Yep.
I don't have any relievers. Let's go. I'm not ready to pull the trigger on a reliever yet. I think I'm going to go another. I'm just playing into the fans. I think that fans love this starting pitcher. I'm going to go with Luis Devers here at number 23 overall. I'm going to slide him into my rotation. I think he fits with the rotation that I'm building. If I'm building a rotation that's going to play in real life, I love a Jordan Wicks, Daniel Palencia, Ryan Jensen, Luis Devers top 4.
Yeah.
All right, so now I've got some tough decisions here because we're filling up. We're having a good run on pitchers, which the Cubs are having a phenomenal system development on pitchers, but the well runs dry eventually. So I'm sitting there with only 3 pitchers. I think I've got to take one, and I'm gonna go upside again. Actually, you know what? I can't believe his name hasn't been called. I'm going Cole Franklin. I just looked at my board, realized he hasn't been taken. I'm going to pivot on that because Cole Franklin. Yeah, give me Cole. Let me. Oh, unless you're dropping him in there, I'll put
another
Cole
guy
on there.
bringing a slider to 2023.
Absolutely. Yes. So I'm going Cole Franklin. And then the decisions get really, really tough after that because we're talking about positional value that gets it gets a little dicey. There's still very good players here. But let me see on my board.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So I know that we're drafting for positional value. I think that we should try to stay as on with the positions they play as possible. There may be, I'm looking at like a guy like Chase Strumpf, like he played both second and third, right? Like pretty split down the middle in between second and third. So like a guy like that, I think can play either. But we'll try. I think we should try to stay as on with their current positions. I think Brian, you and I have talked about Chase Strumpf as a first baseman maybe in the future. I don't know. Was it just me that said that? I don't think we put like Chase Strumpf at first base in this draft.
Okay.
But so. Just a heads up before you keep going, Zumach.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And that actually did factor into a few of the guys that I was looking at. But I agree. It's kind of what I was talking about with Ballesteros, where, yeah, he could be first base or whatever, but, it's primarily a catcher still at the moment. So it is funny that you brought up Chase Strumpf because I actually am going to take Chase Strumpf. And I am going to put him – I'm going to put him at second base. So I'm taking Chase Strumpf, and I'm going to put him at second base.
Okay. I think I will, Brian, I'll have you confirm my thoughts here. If you end up needing to shift him over to, you said you're going to put him at second. If you need to shift him over to third, I think that's acceptable later on.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So is this me now, or did you go? Are you still up here, Zumach? You took Franklin and Strumpf, right? So it's me. Okay. All right. All right. So you guys have taken some of the upside pitchers, and I did that with Palencia a little bit. I'm going to continue on that train and go with a little bit of a forgotten man, but someone I know that people are excited to see in 2023, and that's Drew Gray, who I think is, I mean, the similarities with Jackson Ferris are, at this point, without having them seen pitch on MILB TV and all that good stuff, are plenty. But Drew Gray, draft pick a couple of years back, I think that we could be in for a big year from Drew Gray, the spin rate god in 2023.
Yeah, I gotta admit, he was the guy I was going with, and then I forgot Frank was still on the board. Yeah, this is great. Great pick.
So I guess behind the scenes in what's going on with me right now, just I am currently in writing up my prospect list mode. And so I've been working on that in all my free time. And I just wrote up a guy, and I'm going to spoil his ranking here on the show because he's the last guy that I have in my top 20 that's still on the board. And I think having him in my top 20 will, maybe be a slightly bit of a surprise. But I'm going to draft Jordan Wogu here. And I think Jordan Wogu is a guy that's a little underrated. I think he does a lot of the things that you want baseball players these days to do, right? He's a guy that hits the ball extremely hard. He's a good athlete, makes good adjustments, actually doesn't strike out as much as a guy like you would expect for a guy that has always been talked about as somebody who doesn't have a great swing or whatever. I think Jordan Wogu is underrated, and I'm excited. I'm going to put him in left field here. So he is coming aboard.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that pick. That's awesome. I loved your ranking of them more than the pick even.
Yeah. Man, I might get weird here.
Yes. Do it.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to do it because there's one player. I've been talking to people that have been around the Cubs Arizona complex this winter, and there's one guy I came into the draft tonight. I was like, I really want to get this one guy that I've been hearing great things about. And it is definitely the most surprising pick of the draft so far, I think. But just because he's that guy that I want to make sure I don't miss. At second base, I'm going to draft Jefferson Rojas.
Explain.
And I'm going to tell you guys what. I think that Jefferson Rojas finishes the 2023 season as a top 15 prospect in the Cubs system. I think we're going to hear some things about what he does this year in terms of the physicality that he's added this year and the fact that he now has power potential that the Cubs didn't even necessarily expect when they signed him. And I think that they believe that he is now the best player they signed that year in that international free agency. And he's a guy that I'm really excited about for this season. And so because second base is one of those positions that's not super deep, and just because I decided that he is my guy for this draft, Jefferson Rojas, let's go.
That's not even the complex guy I thought you were going to pick.
I sometimes think about, like, as we're recording, I'm like, oh, what things can I clip from an episode? Like, you know damn well that's being clipped. That part that you just said just now.
That's great.
I did. You took my guy. I had him next. No, I'm kidding. I had no idea that was coming. All right. Was that your second guy? Was that your two? Okay. All right. I don't even know how to read. I don't know what to do now. You got me so thrown off here. All right. I've got to fill that rotation. I've got 5 guys now, so I don't have to worry about starting pitchers anymore. That's kind of nice. I don't have to worry about that. All right. I'm gonna go down I'm looking at my list here. Even though I do have a full starting rotation, I'm going to move over to the bullpen here because, Brian, I think you got clearly the top relief pitching prospect in the farm system in Jeremiah Estrada earlier in the draft. And I think, in my eyes at least, there is a very clear number 2 relief pitching prospect in the Cubs system, and that's Zach Lee. So I'm going to go with Zach Lee. You got a good closer, and I think that's him on my team here.
I like it.
Yeah, that's a good call. All right. Well, so Zachary was getting close on my board. I am actually going to be taking a reliever here. And I mean, will people give me grace on this? If I have to lock him in as a starting pitcher, that's fine. But I do think it.
I was gonna ask about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for
you
it.
guys, you know where I'm going with this.
Go for
Are we okay with this? Or
Yeah, that's
all
fine.
right. I'm going Luke Little.
Yeah.
I think that there is a legitimate chance he still starts a little bit next year. And I'm not saying he's not a starter long term, but I really do think that they start to they've expanded the arsenal. I think they see what sticks, and then they isolate 2, maybe 3 pitches and just roll with him. So I am going to go Luke Little. I am going to lock him in as a relief pitcher. But I think, again, we're going on upside, and it is hard to argue with the upside of Luke Little. So
yeah,
I'm going to go with
him.
Yeah. And then the next pick is going to be maybe a little bit on the strange side, or somebody that might just be a bit of a pop here, but I'm going to go Hayden McGeary on that.
Okay.
I think I'm going to lock him in as a DH, primarily just because I really, really buy the power potential. I really buy the power potential. It's not just because he socked a bunch of, I think he was D2 home runs, but like the exit velo and some of the batted ball metrics that we were getting off of it were like insane. And that's transferable. Like, yeah, you can hit it really far off of the D2 pitcher. No knock on D2, but I mean, the batted ball numbers are the batted ball numbers. So I am going to just take the power right now and pick Hayden McGeary.
All right. I'm looking at I've got a shortstop in Kevin Madej, but I don't have any other infielders. And I think what I'm going to do is pull the trigger, move Kevin Madej to second base. He could stay at shortstop. He might go to second, but I'm just going to have 2 middle infielders here is what I'm going to have. I'm going to go ahead and pull the trigger on Silk. Ed Howard is getting drafted here. I like Alexander Canario. I'm concerned about his return from injury, but we did hear recently, I don't know who was it Mooney and Sharma that announced or that reported it. Yeah. That's that Ed Howard will be assigned to an affiliate out of spring training. That makes me feel a whole lot better about Ed Howard. So I'm pulling the trigger on him at number 32 overall.
Yeah, I thought since you guys had gotten your shortstops, I could wait on Ed, and I think I overthought that one, but that's a good pick. I like it. All right. I don't necessarily have a plan here, so I'm going to go with one that I knew for sure, which I'm going to do another reliever, another major league ready reliever, AAA guy, going to pitch in Chicago this year, probably going to have some success. Ben Leeper, I'm going to pick. Ben, I think, his 2022 season, I think it just wasn't as explosive as 2021, so it felt like a little bit of a disappointment to some people. But after a little bit of a slow start, he was really good there for a couple months especially in the middle of the season. And I think once the Cubs kind of churn through the minor league veteran free agents they signed, and they get back to sort of bringing up the prospects, I think Ben's going to get a look, and I think he's going to stick. And I'm just really talking about him a lot more because I don't necessarily have a plan for what I'm going to do with my other selection here. So
as long as you don't take my guy, you can choose whoever you want. As long I have a list of guys here, so just don't take those, and just take another Jefferson Rojas, which I had no intention of selecting.
Richard Gallardo.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna go with Jake Slaughter, and I have yet to decide where I'm gonna play him. But
all right,
because he's so versatile, I'm just gonna put him here at the bottom of our spreadsheet, and I'm gonna let the next couple picks play out, and then I'm gonna figure out where to slide Jake into.
All right, that sounds good. He can give you a go in your infield slot for right now if you really want.
Man, I really thought I could get Slaughter here in the next couple picks. That was a nice play.
That was good. All right.
Yeah.
I'm up, and I think I found my DH already. And I'm gonna go with Nazir Muley here. At number 35 overall. I mean, he could be a pitcher, he could be a DH, he can be whatever. Talk about Jake Slaughter throwing him down at the bottom of the list. I mean, I could just do that with Muley here, call it a day. I'll put him in a DH, but he can go wherever. He's a two-way player. He's going to be exciting. I'm not expecting to see Muley up in even Myrtle Beach really this year at all. I mean, maybe the tail end of the season, but I mean, talk about an exciting guy. He's about as exciting as they come in the system right now.
Yeah, I don't really think there's anybody with as much upside in the entire system. I mean, like when you factor in on both sides of the ball, I don't think he's a better prospect than Christian Hernandez or Kevin Alcantara, but I'm not sure that anybody has as much upside. It's like absolutely insane. So I'll be very curious to see how they develop him. All right, I'm going to go with a guy. I'm actually a little surprised he's still sitting there because I think he demonstrated a really strong hit tool last year, but then started to develop power, and it was almost like we kind of forgot about it with all the breakouts in the system. But I'm going to and you saw that I moved Alexander Canario to right field. I'm going to take Yohendrick Pinango, and put him in left field because I think that's a guy that consistently is hitting above his weight class, so to speak. Like he's consistently one of the youngest guys there and probably spend some time in Double-A. I think I'm just going to buy in on that and lock down another position player.
I like it.
Okay, we're kind of having a run on relievers, and so this is who I thought actually Bryan was going to take with the last pick, but I'm going to pick Bailey Horn with my second pick here in this pool.
I like that. I like that pick. I mean, the Cubs have a lot of good relievers, dude. I mean,
do.
it's a position that we've talked about at length that the Cubs have just gotten incredibly impressive at developing pitchers, whether they're veteran relievers, prospect pitchers, whatever they may be. I'm excited. I mean, and we're looking at guys so far between Estrada and Leeper and Lee and Horn and Little to a different. He's a kind of a different story, but all guys that could make an impact in Chicago in the next year and then this year really.
I was really excited to see Bailey get the spring training invite. I think the Cubs sort of taking him seriously as an option for 2023. I'm really happy with that.
All right, is it my turn here, Zumach? All right, I've got an opening at third base, and just like that on my big board here is a nice third baseman that performed so well at South Bend last year. Luis Verdugo was really, really good last year, man. He was very good. Slick as ever at third base defensively. Was really the most consistent hitter South Bend had throughout the course of the season, and still super young. So I'm going Luis Verdugo. I think that he fits well. Between Madej, Howard, and Verdugo, they can pick it.
Yep. All right. I am going to start to fill out this lineup a little more. I'm the only guy without a catcher here, and I think that I probably need to change that. One guy that definitely rose up the rankings that I'm giving a lot of thought to when Greg came out with his great piece on Bash is Ethan Hearn, but I'm not going to draft Ethan here. I'm going to draft Adan Sanchez, the other guy the Cubs signed the year that Jefferson Rojas signed, that performed really well in the DSL last year. We've seen pictures of him in Arizona already catching some of the prospects. He looks like he's put on some good weight, especially like sort of, midsection. I think that's going to help with the power. And I think that there's a chance that by the end of this year, we're calling him the best catching prospect in the system. So I'm going to take him there. And then, it's funny. I always think of the Cubs system as being super deep in outfielders. And as I was starting to think about how I need to fill out my outfield spot, it wasn't looking as deep to me as I would have thought. So I'm gonna take Jonathan Perlaza here.
Crap.
Another guy who just got invited to his first big league spring training. So congratulations to him. One of the big sort of Double-A breakout guys that happened. It seemed like Double-A at the end of the year just had all these guys who were breaking out that were just almost feeding off each other. And he almost got lost in the mix because it was so exciting what Mervis was doing, what Canario was doing, what Jake Slaughter was doing. But man, Jonathan Perlaza, I think, was taking the best at bats on that team for a good 2-month stretch there. So I'm gonna take him. We might have to figure out this outfield dynamic, who's gonna play where a little bit, but we'll figure that out internally.
Yeah, defensively you got an interest. I guess not awful, but yeah, Perlaza who I was going to select there. So did you take two guys or did you just take one so far? Did I lose
Yeah,
one?
no, Sanchez.
Oh,
Sanchez.
Sanchez. Yeah,
I gotta
okay.
add him.
Yeah, Perlaza. I was very excited. So we're recording this on. We're actually recording this on February 6th, and today the Cubs announced their non-roster invitees to spring training. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the first time we actually saw official confirmation that Jonathan Perlaza had re-signed. We kind of had figured. I think that we all knew that was the case, but I don't think there was like official word that he had re-signed. So to get him on that non-roster invitee list was awesome to see. So I'm also buying a little bit of time for myself to figure out what I'm doing with this pick here. I've got a first base slot open. I've also got an outfield slot, which I thought I had filled all of my outfield, but I did not. So I was planning on doing that with Jonathan Perlaza here. I've also got some infield, outfield utility spots that I can play with if I really, really want to. All right. This guy's been getting some buzz recently. I don't know where I'm struggling on where to rank him when I'm like truly ranking this my prospect list. But he's been getting some buzz recently, and I like what he did last year at Myrtle Beach and in South Bend. I'm gonna fill my first base slot. I'm gonna put BJ Murray there at first base.
Damn. Oh, I thought I had him. Yeah.
This is where I'm going to put my argument that BJ should move to second base, but you know.
Yes. Yeah, that's fair. Well, I guess real quick, I'm curious, Bryan, do you still feel that way even with the shift rules now in place? Do you still think that BJ Murray should be given a shot at second base, or do you think that has kind of changed things?
That's a good question. I think that I do think he should be given a shot. I think once you get to sort of that AA level and you start to think about, you know, how guys are going to help a major league ball club, I think if he's a guy that's playing, you know, maybe four positions, you add in left field on top of second base down the line as a switch hitter. I mean, that's just sort of the dream bench bat for the majors, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's a good call. All right, Zumach, kick it to you.
All right. So I could go a couple different ways since I was staked on BJ Murray, but that is okay because that's the part of the game. I will actually go with a guy that got some buzz towards the end of the year. A bit of a forgotten guy, but had a really, really successful season. This may be where I shift Chase Strumpf over to third base because I'm going to go with Pedro Ramirez. I think it's, again, a big bat. I'm definitely leaning into the bat versus the defense with my lineup here. Not that these guys can't pick it outside of PCA, but it's a little bit more of the bat leaning, and I am going to go Pedro Ramirez here.
I like it.
Then, yeah, man, now it gets pretty fun and dicey because I've got most of the lineup already picked out.
I'm curious, Greg. Let me jump in real quick about Pedro Ramirez because I'm curious. Do you think he's going to play more infield or outfield in 2023?
That's a really good question. So we've got at Myrtle Beach Hernandez. They'll probably put Preciado back there again. And I don't think Ed goes. I don't think Kevin Medea goes. So I'm still going to say he plays a good amount of infield. And actually, when I was seeing him take some shortstop reps, I don't know about you because you spent more time in Arizona, but when I was seeing him take shortstop reps kind of prior to the game, he looked fine out there. He just wasn't going to play it with Christian.
Right.
In the same infield. But I think you kind of don't move him until you have to, though. That may be where he ultimately ends up as like a super utility guy.
Yeah, I just know at Instructs in September, I know they started to play with center field a little bit. I think really probably just to see what they had there. I haven't actually heard one way or the other what they thought about him out there, but I was curious if we were thinking that was a full-time move coming.
Yeah, not from what I've heard, but I haven't really dug into him too much. Just like casual questions and stuff, and mostly it revolves around the bat is the responses that I get. Though that may be the people that I'm asking. So, but yeah, no, I think Pedro Ramirez is still is a guy that will probably have the bat to profile at a utility position all over the place. The defense is still pretty good. We'll see how it fills out. But yeah, I'm gonna go Pedro Ramirez here, and I'm actually gonna go. We watched Bryan Smith pick his guy, and early.
A
and
long
make
time
his
ago.
call. And I won't say that this guy is going to be a top 20 prospect, but I think he's going to surprise a ton of people because of his 4-pitch mix. And he was somebody that I did not have high on my draft board. But at the end of the day, the feedback that I got after his time in Instructs was this guy is somebody to watch, and that's Mason McGuire. And I don't care what his last name is, and I don't care, he's not Big Mac, but he's definitely a Happy Meal. And I can't believe I just said that. But I love the 4-pitch mix. I love the splitter in there, and the feedback that I was getting from everything was like, this guy is really, really good at what he's doing. So I'm gonna go Mason McGuire. I'm really leaning into the young upside here, but I like him as to fill out the rotation.
I'm imagining a situation where somebody shows Mark McGuire the YouTube clip of Greg Z calling his son a Happy Meal.
That's incredible. I again with the clips. You guys are feeding me gold. You guys are feeding me gold today. I appreciate it.
Mark, if you're watching this, first of all, you have many other things you should be doing. Second of all, I still live in Oregon. We'll just go with that. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna propose a question and see what you guys think about this. This might be a bit of a stretch. If my starting rotation is full, Zumach, you just filled up your starting rotation. Bryan, you have one. So I guess Bryan might be the guy that can deny me here. But if I were to draft Riley Thompson here, could I throw him in the bullpen?
I think so.
Okay. I'm going at what number overall are we? Number 44 overall. I'm going with Riley Thompson, and I'm putting him with Zach Lee in my bullpen. I've been really diving in on Riley Thompson recently. I'm interested in that pitch mix that he has. I think the fastball sitting in the mid-90s is legit. I think I really like the curveball. I think that I was talking with Brennan Miller of the CHGO podcast recently about that curveball of Riley Thompson's. I think that if he can tick it up a few miles per hour, he's sitting down around 80, 81 miles an hour. If he can throw the curveball closer to 83, 84 miles an hour, I think that's a really, really good offering. And I really like the changeup too. He's gotten caught with some really bad luck, really, really bad injury and COVID and all that good stuff, or all that bad stuff, luck. And so Riley Thompson in my bullpen, might see him in Chicago this year. Who says no?
Yeah, right. I mean, the Cubs did a really good job with Riley on the developmental list this year. I thought he came back. He'd added a slider, I think, during the time on the developmental list that really helped him in the second half, a pitch that he seemed to get more confident on and lean on. So I like that pick a lot. That brings it to me, right?
Yes.
All right. Okay, with my first pick here, even though I have a filled out outfield, I'm going to draft, I guess, my 4th outfield spot. Draft a guy that did not play last year, but that has quite a bit of potential, a guy that the Cubs really liked the year before in the draft, really productive college player. I think he'll be able to handle the year off because of the reps he got in the SEC for so long, which is Christian Franklin. So I'm going to make him my 4th outfielder.
I like that one a lot. I'm really excited. I am really excited to see Christian Franklin play this year, man.
Yeah, I mean, he deserves just a full year of health because that's a guy. I want to say it was the first game in minor league spring training last year in the backfields that he got injured on and never made it back from that injury. So if there's a guy in the system who just deserves a full bill of health this year, it's him. And then with my other pick, I think it's probably time I just deal with this shortstop position, right? I tried to be cute with it, and then you guys just kept coming up with ways to punish me for that, whether it be Ed Howard or Pedro Ramirez. You guys were quite rude. But I'm going to go with another guy the Cubs picked in sort of the early middle rounds recently that they paid above slot money to, and that's Chris Pasiola. I think it'll be interesting this year if Chris, A, if he actually does play shortstop, B, if he makes it to Myrtle Beach at all, or I don't think it will be to start. I think he will go to extended spring training, and then the question to me is, do they take him back to the Arizona Complex League, or do they send him up to Myrtle Beach? But this is a guy that I think has he checks all the right boxes of somebody that will be a plus power hitter, think will be a really good third baseman down the road. It's just not quite there right now. I think the rest of his game is what will shine early on, and the power will come later. But as long as he can still handle shortstop for us this year, we're gonna like to get this guy in our draft. When we look back at this list in 4 or 5 years, having him is going to be a boon.
You chose wisely on that one because Chris Pacioli was not going to make his way back to you. I was going to select him before that happened, and you would have had a heck of a time finding a shortstop. So,
yes.
Good call. I'm going to go. I have an outfield spot to fill. I currently have Kevin Alcantara in my center field slot. I think he's a good center fielder, but I think that this guy that I'm about to draft is actually a better center fielder. You drafting Christian Franklin I put my guy in the same boat as Christian Franklin to a certain degree. Parker Chavers is someone that just caught my eye last year. Man, I liked him leading into the 2020 draft. I really liked him out of Coastal Carolina. He didn't get selected that draft. The Cubs ended up getting him in 2021. And although the numbers were not there for him in Myrtle Beach, and he was above average age at that level, you just watch Parker Chavers play, and there's something about him at the plate I really like. And obviously the defense in center field is terrific. So I've got Parker Chavers as my 47th overall pick.
Fun.
All right, I like it. So man. All right, so we're pretty much at the point now where we're just kind of filling out, and I still don't have a first baseman, which is not a position with a ton of depth. So I am gonna go Bryce Ball. He's produced above average offense every season. Do I think he makes a Matt Mervis type ascendance? I don't. But if I'm checking and I'm doing my math here, the guy's only 23. He'll be 24 next year, all of next season or most of next season. So, I think he can make a jump. I'm going to take Bryce Ball here to fill out my lineup. And then now I've got kind of a fun decision to make here. I'm a little surprised that friend of the podcast, Cole Roederer, has not been selected. But I would love Cole Roederer as my backup outfielder here because I'm not sure the vibes can handle it if Cole goes undrafted.
That's an all vibes pick. That's an all vibes pick.
But it's an upside pick. We've talked about how impressive Cole Roederer can be. The guy needs a little bit of luck with health. I don't know what he is future wise, but I like his chances to carve out a role, and so I'm happy to take Bryce Ball and Cole Roederer back to back here.
All right, I'm up. I've got my lineup filled out. I just need an extra infielder, extra outfielder, and a utility man, or just extra hitter. And I also need a reliever. I'm going to pass on reliever right now because I think we're at the point in relievers that there's a lot of dudes. It's just a preference of who we like for the most part. I might be missing somebody here, and that would be rough for my selecting. But I think it's just like, who's your favorite guy of the guys left as relievers? So I'm going to pass on that for now. But I am going to draft a guy that a lot of people do really like, and he was a strong performer in Tennessee and Iowa last year. He's a little bit older, and he doesn't have that pop. Is he a center fielder? Maybe. Is he a left fielder? Yeah, for sure. But he just performed at the plate. I know that he's one of Mick Gillespie's, the broadcaster for the Tennessee Smokies, one of his favorite players. Darius Hill is my selection here as my fourth outfielder, which is kind of proper, him being a fourth outfielder on my team, because I think that's the vibe, the role he fits at the major league level, fourth or fifth outfielder. So Darius Hill, my pick.
I think I had just decided that was going to be my next pick. So well done there. That's good on you. Yeah, I mean, Darius, when we look back on this, if we look back on this 3 years from now, like, there's going to be a lot of guys on our teams that didn't make the major leagues, and Darius is like going to just be a guy that does. I mean, he's a guy that just succeeds wherever he goes, and it might not be a super explosive major league upside type thing, but that's a guy that managers like to have around, and that's going to go a long way. Let's see. So I think I'm going to go with my last reliever here, just because I think Jake Reindl is a guy that I know that Huss likes a lot. I think Greg Z likes him too. It's just one of my favorite guys in the system to watch. A guy that I think could could pitch in the majors this year, which would be a massive jump. But like, I think his stuff where it is since he went with the sidearm arm slot is pretty much there. I think he could succeed in the major leagues. I really do. I said that I would have drafted him in the Rule 5. So I'm going to take him as my last reliever. And I got to say right now, apologies to my guy, Max Bain. I was going to make him my last pick as last reliever. My buddy, former podcast partner, Max, you're number 21 on the team. So
you can still slot him in there as your fourth outfielder. Who says no?
Yeah, exactly. Center fielder on his baseball reference page. All right. I need to get, do I go with another starting pitcher? I guess you guys are just boxed out as starting pitcher. So I'm just going to wait on that. I'm going to get another hitter here. But man, we've done a good job just checking the hitters off the board. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to draft one of the Cubs' most recent signings, the guy that I think was the prize of their latest international free agency. And we're going to just see how this goes. We might look back and he might be the best one of the whole draft, or we might look back and say, who in a couple of years? But this is Dernish Valdez, who was the Cubs' highest bonus guy they signed last month, and a shortstop right now, a guy that I think has a type of swing and body that could add power down the line, and maybe he moves to third base too. But we're gonna make him our backup infielder. We're gonna make Jake Slaughter our DH, and we're getting pretty close to being done here.
Yeah. Just a few more picks left. That was your pick number 52, right?
Yeah.
So we got just a couple more rounds here. I have pick number 53. And a guy that's still sitting out there. I have an extra infield slot still to go. And he was maybe not wisely of me, but my second ranked prospect in the system going into last year, which is wild. But it was going into last year. Remember, we had not seen live. We had not seen Kevin Alcantara. We had not seen PCA in a Cubs uniform. We hadn't seen a lot of these James Triantos, a lot of these super young guys. Reggie Preciado is still on the board, right?
Yep.
All right. I'm going Reggie Preciado as my other infielder. I obviously he had a really, really rough go of it last year, between getting off to a super slow start and then getting injured and then coming back and trying to get comfortable again at Myrtle Beach. Zumach, you mentioned earlier that he will likely be in Myrtle Beach again this year in 2023. But he's a switch hitter that man shortstop. He played shortstop the majority of his games last year when he was healthy. I don't think he's a shortstop long term. He's a third baseman more than likely. But there was a reason why I liked Reggie Preciado when I did. Obviously, he is no longer the second ranked prospect in the system. That was a shot that did not pay off for me. But I will gladly take him as my other infielder here.
All right. I like it. That is good. So for my other infield spot, I'm actually going to I'm going to do a Bryan Smith here, where I go down to the DSL. I talk about a recent IFA, and you talked about Dernish Valdez being the prize of the draft or the IFA. And I think that's fair. They certainly paid the most. I will say, when I've asked around, and this is not something I've dug into a ton, but the guy that I've heard the most feedback on was, I just want to make sure I get his name correctly here, Angel Cepeda. And when I asked around, I got feedback that there was a team in the NL West that was they were really pissed they didn't get him. And it was a pretty power development program. We'll just say that. So I feel good if they like him. I'm going to go just shot in the dark at this point. We're going on upside already. I'm going to go Angel Cepeda for my infielder.
I like that a lot.
All right, man, now I've really got I'm a little surprised that he hasn't been taken, but I don't know if I want to go all lefty out of the bullpen, but I think this is just kind of a fantasy draft anyway. And I'm a big believer in what Riley Martin has done.
Me too.
So yeah. I like it, and I'm a fan of how he's really, really taken to a lot of the pro development, pitching development, and pitch design. So I'm going to go Riley Martin. So Angel Cepeda and Riley Martin, and I think we're almost
I think
to the end.
you just have one more pick, right?
Yep, I do.
All right, so I got 2 picks left. I was gonna take Riley Martin here on my pick. So good call there, Zumach. I am gonna go with another reliever. I'm gonna go high upside reliever here. He's a guy that has just not seemed to be healthy over this time as a Cubs prospect. But every time he pitches, it's just like, to me, like, relievers are really tough. When I'm, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm watching Cubs minor league baseball at night, I'm bouncing around from broadcast to broadcast. I'm mostly focused on the starting pitcher first, and then I'll just watch whatever lineup catches my eye the most after that. So relievers kind of take a back seat in terms of my viewing. But whenever this guy's on the mound, I have to watch him, and that's Giovanni Cruz. He's kind of a forgotten man, and I try to keep pushing him out there because I think the stuff is really good. The fastball, high 90s fastball, the slider is terrific. Giovanni Cruz he fills out my bullpen here.
Nice. I like that. Giovanni's really fun. All right. I need to get my last starting pitcher here, and I'm gonna tell you guys the debate I had. So they were basically down to 2 guys. They are 2 guys that I don't think that, the average listener here is going to be super familiar with. One, and I think I'm going to pass, but Kenny Perez is a guy that Zumach and I have both talked about on Twitter, a guy that we both heard good things about. I think the intel that I got was he was the best Cubs pitching prospect in the Arizona Complex League last year, and that was despite having a walk per 9 rate of like 10 or something really high. But when he's around the strike zone, he's a real problem. And I had a player that spent some time around him that was in Arizona for rehab. He texted me one day after watching Kenny throw and was like, future big league closer, like, just book it right now. I'm predicting it. And that sticks with you. But I'm gonna go with a different player that has also not yet pitched in full season ball, and it's Brandon Birdsall, who was a Cubs draft pick last year from Texas Tech. We'll see down the line if he sticks in the rotation or if he moves to the bullpen, but it's power stuff. It's a really, like, one of the shortest arm strokes you're ever going to see, so he's sort of like a really modern baseball profile. Big guy that I think would be able to handle innings if he sticks in the rotation. And a guy that I think could, like, just really bust on the scene this year. Like, he's the type of guy that, if the Cubs decide that it'd be better for Cade Horton's development to start Cade in low A, Brandon's the guy you put in high A because he's had all the reps. And I think you could put him in high A and we could look 6 weeks into the season and be like, he's too good for that level.
Yeah. I think that you are riding the bandwagon that Todd Johnson created on the Brandon Birdsall bandwagon for sure. So yeah, that's a fun pick. Does that round out your team there?
No, I got one more pick here.
I've been trying to rush you this entire time.
With the last pick, I'm going to go, a good baseball team needs 2 catchers. And so I'm going to go with the second catcher. I'm going to go Pablo Aliendo. Okay. I think, just to get Pablo's vibes on the team is going to be helpful. But also, this is a guy that just keeps getting better at baseball, like freakishly better every year. Like, he just finds ways to improve, and he's going to be in Double-A this year, which is wild to me. Just in tracking his development, that we've already sort of reached that point. But a really solid player that I still think has some upside. He's going to put on a little more weight, and then we're going to see what happens with the offensive profile. But he's going to round out the roster there.
Well, you round out your roster with a catcher that has plenty of good vibes. I'm going to round out my roster with a catcher that has plenty of good vibes. Ethan Hearn is my last draft pick. Sorry, Zumach. I saw you preparing for it over there. Ethan Hearn is my guy. Bryan mentioned my recently released Bash offensive metric, and Ethan Hearn, according to that metric, was a top 10 offensive performer last year. Now, a lot of things made that tick up. He had a very underrated season at the plate. Part of the reason why he scored so well in Bash is because he was young for the level. He actually ran the bases really well in terms of stolen bases. We always joke that Ethan Hearn is fast, and he actually was fast last year. So Ethan Hearn, all vibes guy. He is just going to fit in perfectly with a roster full of vibes.
Yeah, I love it. That's such a good pick because that's exactly. I'll tell you now. I think. Do I have the last pick?
You have
in the
the
draft?
last overall selection. Yes.
Okay. So the decision that I was going between, I was also going catcher. But I was debating between two guys. So in effect, you made it very easy for me because the decision was between Ethan Hearn and Bryce Windham. And I think Bryce, man, I keep watching Bryce Windham, and I don't think he's a future starting MLB catcher, but like I just think he plays in the big leagues. Like there are so many times that I've seen him like make a throw that it just gets his pitcher out of jams. We've seen him play multiple positions. I think he fits the utility perspective really, really well. And if he can just show like the smallest amount of pop, I think he's a future big leaguer. So I'm gonna bet on Bryce Windham. I'm happy to take the selection at pick 60. Bryce, I got your back, and that rounds out our teams.
That's awesome.
Bryce
I
went
love
like 2 weeks without striking out in Double-A this
Mhm.
year, which had to be like, he had to be one of the only players in the whole Double-A that had a stretch like that. He's just a super athlete that, his hand-eye coordination is like, probably top 5 in the whole system.
Yeah, I mean, he had a top 3 strikeout rate, top 3 walk rate in the entire system this past year, which is wild from a catcher. And you're right, Zumach. If he just, we've talked about it, right? If he just puts any sort of pop in that bat, like I was very excited to see him get the non-roster invite to spring training because I think that was well deserved in the effort that he's put in behind the plate. Because he hasn't been a full-time catcher. Last year was the first time he was a full-time catcher. So, yeah, really excited for Bryce Windham. I think we got 3 pretty good squads. I don't know. I mean, what you guys want to wrap this up by? Is there any squad that you would rather have?
I mean, I think my team, I ended up with a lot of guys that don't have a ton of professional baseball experience, which is both it's exciting and a little nerve wracking. So we're gonna see, we're gonna roll some dice this year and see what happens.
I was when I created this, I went for the five starting pitchers, and I was like, maybe I should have gone 4, but we were quick to fill up the starting pitcher slots, and we did it pretty easily, honestly.
Dude, I would have done 6. Yeah. I was totally fine with it. I think that was a great call on that. I don't think I would take any other squad, though. I want to call out a few picks from you guys that I thought was just phenomenal. The BJ Murray one was great. I think that's super value. Honestly, he's probably a guy that could have gotten picked like 5 or 6, 7, 8 picks before and been like great value there. I really like the Jefferson Rojas play.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super fun. And we're gonna watch that. I mean, I've heard good feedback. I don't think I've heard. I haven't dug in as deep as Bryan, so I'm super excited to see that now. That just got me jazzed. I can't wait to see your rankings because I think that's gonna be great.
Yeah, I'll be sure to put out on social media our different teams here, our 20-man rosters. I'll put them out on social media. We'll have the fans pick on who had the best team. So that'll be fun. One of us will get made fun of at the end. That's always a good time. So.
By the way, I only had one of my top 50 prospects that we didn't draft. Can you guys guess who it is? It's a reliever.
Oh.
I'm
trying to think.
Do you have
lefty or righty?
Righty.
Do you have Dennis Correa ranked?
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Yep. Yeah, just proximity to the majors, 100-mile-per-hour fastball out of a low arm, low release height, a pitch that will absolutely play. So he's sort of the one guy that really slipped through our cracks here, but only 3 relievers that was going to happen to one of the relievers. Actually, no, Cam Sanders too.
Cam Sanders, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's funny that as we got to about 2 relievers each, I mentioned that like from then on out, it was kind of like, all right, like who are our favorites, right? Like we're going to draft our favorites. And you look at our 3 relievers, our third relievers for each of us. It's Zumach, you had Riley Martin, I had Giovanni Cruz, and Bryan, you had Jake Reindl. Those are kind of like 3 favorites, like not your prototypical top prospects. You got Cam Sanders and Danis Correa and guys ranked above them, but those are all 3 guys that we really dig. So I'm glad we were able to sneak them onto our rosters here.
Yep.
Yeah, fun exercise,
All right,
guys.
I'm glad we had some fun with that. That was fun. As we kind of progress on through this podcast, I mean, we're getting closer and closer to the to spring training, and closer to where this podcast will be dropping every week as opposed to every other week. I know I threw in a back-to-back weeks there because I wanted to get that Cole Roeder interview into the rotation before, because Bryan, you and I interviewed him while he was in Australia, and he made a few different references to being in Australia, and I didn't want pictures of Cole popping up in Arizona, and people were like, what the hell is going on? So I wanted to get that episode in there. But pretty soon we'll be going to every week episodes. I've reached out to some of the broadcasters and scheduled some times to get them on to preview some of the affiliates coming up here in the month of March. That's when that's going to happen. But I guess I'll go down the line. Zumach, I'll start with you. You want to plug yourself before we wrap up this episode?
Yep, you can find me on Ivy Futures at Twitter, if you've ever heard of that thing. And then I'm a writer for Northside Bound. Pretty much primarily. We're into the draft cycle now. The college season starting. You heard me kind of lead off the podcast with that. So look up for my mock draft, which I try to spend a lot of time on, really dig into my top probably 100 rankings, which should be out, right around the start of the season. I've already been working on the graphics on that. And then actually I've got a really fun piece where we've been diving into what certain players have been doing this offseason. Now, this is a Cubs minor league type of piece. Probably going to split it into 2, but I think there were some really, really cool kind of tidbits about what some people were working on. Just happy to showcase it. Happy to showcase what these guys are grinding away at in the offseason.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, when this episode drops, I believe, what is it, February 14th, we're doing that, Greg?
Yep.
So that should be the day that my prospect list starts coming out. I'm heading to Arizona on February 15th, so I want to try to get all the writing done before then. So if you guys want to see that list, it should be available today as you're listening to this at Bleacher Nation, and then you can find me on Twitter at Cub Prospects.
So what you really should have done is drop your entire your own top 50, right? Drop your entire top 50 on this episode, and then I could have released the episode early and really screwed you up. So that would have been fun.
Oh, I hinted at a couple, so you guys still got like a real inside look at a couple there.
I'm just amazed that Bryan hasn't talked about how if you wanted to get something for your significant other, Bryan Smith is dropping his prospect list, and it is like ready to go.
Oh, Valentine's Day! There you go. If anybody wants to like give their wife my top 10, which comes out 2 days later, just hit me up on Twitter. I'll help you out.
Incredible. All right, guys, you can find me on Twitter at Out of the Vines. I'm also writing over at Northside Bound. As has been mentioned a couple times, I recently dropped my Bash offensive metric, and that was I spent the entire offseason putting that together. That was really, really fun. You can go check out that article kind of describing everything about what Bash is. And in the coming weeks, I'm going to be putting together a few different articles pointing out some specific players that caught my eye with that when that metric came out. So a little bit of digging deep into James Triantos and why he scored better than what you'd imagine, why he's a top 6 or so offensive performer in the system, all that good stuff. Say that again.
He's on Team Smith. I just want to point that out to Zumach.
He is. A little salty over there. All right. So thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back in your ears in 2 short weeks. Thank you so much.
No problem.